I wanted to talk about technology adoption, technology absorption, and adaptation. So these are really kind of complicated concepts, but I'm just going to boil it down into a very simple way of explaining these particular things. I'm no means an expert, but I'm a professor of innovation. And I study these kind of things, but there's this basic story that happens with technology. So, first of all, this is probably aimed towards people that are interested in technology, somebody that works at a federal lab, for example, maybe NASA, and they're really thinking about how they can implement some of these particular things. Or maybe you're an undergraduate student and you're thinking about working in the technology sector. So the basic story is that a lot of technology that is introduced, a lot of innovations that are introduced in the marketplace actually don't get used. The vast majority of them don't get used. And so a lot of people have studied what is called technology diffusion. This is within a particular population, they use kind of the same logic as what you look at, say, virus diffusion or diffusion in water, for example, of a substance. And what you look at is how it spreads throughout the population until when everybody else is actually using it. Well, at one point, they started thinking about one of the limiting factors of why it doesn't get spread across all different populations is because of adaptation or the capacity or adoption, sorry, how it actually is being adopted. What are the different characteristics of adoption? I haven't read this literature in a while, but the basic story is that what you're looking at is what are the ways that you can increase the adoption of that particular technology. And it's generally from the perspective of the company, from the firm, or maybe it's the lab, and they're looking at how to spread this particular technology across more and more people. Now, the challenging thing is that technologies actually they can be officially used across a lot of different organizations, but they're actually not used. Right? There's what is called ceremonial adoption. This has been going on for a long time. People adopt things, or we've known about this for probably since in the late 1970s, people started saying, hey, there is people adopting these particular practices or technologies, but it's kind of ceremonial. Cheers. The reason why they're actually doing that is because of many different reasons that are outside of the technology efficiency itself. So, Pamela Talbert and folks at Cornell, they've studied this. And what they're looking at is how, even though many people are actually using the technology, very few people are actually using it, like actually integrating it within what they do in their everyday practice, right? So, for example, a lot of people have access to Microsoft Access, the database software, or even Excel, and nobody uses the damn stuff, right? Like, you don't even know what that is, but it's on every single computer around the world. You don't even know what those particular things are. And so they're there, or SQL, right? And so we're figuring out, how do you get people to adopt these things, not just kind of, for a ceremonial purpose, or because it's just being put on their computer or whatever, or people can demonstrate to other people, look at me, I'm an SQL user and they've used it once. That there is, when you do that, you're doing all sorts of displays that are about human nature, right? Like, you are being a technology lead, right? Or you're signaling to other people, this kind of human nature stuff that is related to more of the sociology of how we do things, and not really related to the technology itself or the efficiency of actually using these particular things. We've known that for a long time. And so people in the last few years, let's say the last decade, have been sort of unraveling some of these particular trends even more. and looking at how they can do it a little bit more deeply. But it tends to be, at least from my perspective, it tends to be from the company side, where they are looking at and sort of forcing more people using these things. It's not necessarily, but they're, they want to encourage these things. So they look at technology absorption, like how readily it's being absorbed within the company. And adaptation, technology adaptation is how are the processes being adopted around this. There's sort of a suite of different ideas thinking about, how integrated these particular things are when a technology is introduced. How likely are they actually going to be used within an organization in a real sense, right? Like, I use my cell phone every day, so I'd say there's probably really, it's very much absorb that technology, but not to the extent of what I can use it, right? There is a lot of power that's there and a lot of things I can get access to, but I don't use those particular things. And so the question is how do we know many of these things work to improve efficiency and improve our lives, but how do we get people to actually use them? And what are the limiting factors of how to get people to use these things? So that's one perspective, right? I've learned, that's my professor hat, but I've learned through the Reciprocity Project, this is the important thing is to ignore many of those things of like, hey, people should do these things. It is a lot more efficient for them to do it. They should be actually doing it. And, why is it that they aren't using it? And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know. What you want to look at is, instead of that kind of logic, right, it's not going to be fully integrated. What you want to look at is like what people are actually doing. And then from there, mimic what they're actually doing so that it becomes like a natural process or a natural thing of what they actually are doing, right? You're not replacing anything. You're just kind of like, hey, you're doing the same damn thing anyways. You might as well use this thing that actually kind of works and makes your life easier, and it becomes like a thing. So there's, a couple of things to think about with that. We know that there's lots of technology that's available that's like that. So how do people get that out? A lot of it, how do people, there are things that you don't have to do a lot of work for, right? So you lower those barriers of entry, or, the sort of switching costs of people switching from technology to technology. But you also want to think about the social aspect of things. How are you going to get people to spread the word, get excited about it? And in my view, this is where it's more a little bit on the strategy side, is what you want to look at is how can you provide as much value as you possibly can and extract as little as you possibly can, right? So looking at, man, if you could checkbox a bunch of things and make it so easy for somebody that they don't even have to learn the technology, and then it's just this like super valuable thing, they will adopt it readily and tell their friends, right? And that's what you're looking for, is what are the things where people can just naturally do their things, and they don't even really have to add anything, and then you're adding on top of it and making it super exciting for them. So they're very, very excited to actually share this. And those are the things that become really, really popular. Those are the things, and there's like a social component to it, right? Like people adopt these things because they want to share it with people. They're so excited to share it with people. It sort of spreads quite quickly, right? That's why things like influencers, for example, are becoming really popular, is because people like them. The Holderness family, I love them. I love watching them. By the way, they're fantastic to watch. They're, wholesome. They're kind of quirky. You can look them up, right? So there is these kind of things where it just becomes part of your life and you just fall in love with it and you become the evangelist for other people. The users become the evangelists, not the company itself, where it's not what you're doing as a company, but it's the evangelist. People just become excited to actually use this particular thing, and they want to share and talk about it. And so it's thinking about what is it that people actually are doing, right? Like, get that. And this is a hard lesson that I've learned many times, many times with the Reciprocity Project. Look to see what people are actually doing, and then accentuate that, build that up. And it's a little bit better to actually do that, right? But the problem is you don't know what they're actually doing until you try. And so you have to spend resources and try and see what they're doing. And then from there, you see what they're actually doing, and then tailor the particular thing that you're actually doing, right? And a lot of products are actually being developed like that now, where you see how people actually interact with this, and then you actually work on it over time to make it fit what they are actually doing, right? So you might have a whole bunch of things, bells and whistles, but if people are always using one particular part of it, that's the important thing, right? The rest of it doesn't matter. And so you got to go, and despite the fact that, it's painful, right? It's really painful because you thought like, hey, this would be a great idea, but instead it's actually something else that people are really focusing on and super excited about. And then you got to focus on that particular thing and leverage that particular thing. Okay, hopefully that helps you out. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Good luck. All right, take care. Bye. Oh, by the way, if you're like a federal lab or something like that, like you work at NASA or something like that, give me a shout. I think it would be great to include the whole Reciprocity Project in with the things that you're doing, or you work at a large university and either you want me to, speak or build in the platform into your university, give me a shout. I'm always there. All right, take care. Bye.